Do you believe in twin flames? Would you consider your relationship to be such a special connection?
Well, Christina Rice told us that we were twin flames, but again, it's like, who knows? When I just think about my own experience of my time with you, if we're one soul split into two bodies, I can say that the time when I was at my lowest and sickest, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, was when we were not together.
I believe we meet the definition of twin flames.
Sure.
There are some wild things about our relationship that have been otherworldly. We promised to be together forever when we were 16 years old, staring up at the night sky, and we saw like 13 shooting stars immediately. Like, whoa. Our whole reconciliation is like better than any corny romance movie or novel. You're always emotionally exactly what I need. There is something really, really metaphysical about our dynamic, our relationship that I think is possible in many, many relationships to experience. Mm-hmm. And so, fuck it. Let's call it twin flames. Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. This is Chase. We got Mimi.
Yes, hello. I'm here. And I'm ready to podcast.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I have some great news for you that you're going to be very excited about.
I'm ready.
I hope you haven't already heard about this, but it's possible.
The Supersonics are coming back.
Nope.
I thought maybe you had some insider information.
Nope, not that. Well, they might be coming back, but that's not my news.
I think I'll be one of the first to hear about it. So
yeah, probably. Okay. I got a notification via Instagram today that Ben Stiller is producing and starring in a new pickleball comedy.
No way.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I was immediately so happy because one of our favorite movies, one of our favorite rewatchables, if you will, is Dodgeball.
Yeah.
We just watched it this summer, like a month ago.
Yeah.
And it just does not disappoint.
It's perfection.
It is actually a perfect movie. And so I'm hoping it'll have Dodgeball vibes in the actual, like, this Instagram billboard type thing that I'm reading.
This is real.
Yeah, Ben Stiller, they have a picture of like Ben Stiller in Dodgeball. So like it's giving Dodgeball vibes. It says the movie will be called The Dink. And it will focus on a washed up tennis professional played by Jake Johnson, who is in the show The New Girl. You'd know his face.
Looking at his face now.
And
oh yeah, okay.
Attempting to save his club and win his father's respect by doing one thing he swore he'd never do: play pickleball. The cast includes Mary Steenburgen, no idea who that is, Ed Harris, my old man crush, while Stiller and former tennis champ Andy Roddick will have key supporting roles. Stiller's production company Red Hour Films and Rivulet Films will team up on the production, per Hollywood Reporter. So I think it sounds pretty legit.
It sounds good. The caution that I see in this is that supporting role for Stiller.
Yeah.
Dude guy needs to be front and center. Like we need White Goodman.
Yeah.
As the pickleball enemy.
But I would still say in Dodgeball, White was not, I mean, maybe he was a lead, but I don't know where the line is between lead and supporting, because Vince Vaughn was definitely like the lead in that, but obviously.
But I mean, who owns the movie? Stiller.
Right.
Like you walk away from that movie and you're like, that guy was, to use the Rewatchables terms, which is a great podcast, my hero, Bill Simmons, it was Apex Mountain for Stiller.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Comedy Stiller, Dodgeball is Apex Mountain with a short, like maybe second would be Zoolander.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, Dodgeball was, I think, even better than Zoolander, but
I think so too, even though I love Zoolander. And then you've got like, the guy is such an underrated comedic genius.
Yeah.
You've got the Starsky and Hutch movie. And then Heavyweights, which is basically his White Goodman character.
Yeah, it is.
And then you've got, which I don't necessarily like near as much as the just absolutely over the top, stupid and mean Ben Stiller. But because you can also categorize the Happy Gilmore Ben Stiller in that bucket as well. Then you get
more like a cameo.
You get the like people pleasing Ben Stiller from like Meet the Parents, who is a little bit awkward funny, and more of like a physical comedian.
Yeah, he's kind of cringy funny.
But it's a little cringe funny, and I don't have a long leash for cringe funny. I don't like watching that a lot.
Yeah, Ben Stiller as White Goodman is my favorite type of Ben Stiller.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
Everybody, if you're a dodgeball lover like us, the movie, not the sport. The sport is fine, but keep your eyes peeled for the dink.
Super fun. Great find by you.
Yeah.
Well, another Chase and Mimi episode we got going on here. Typical format. We get to our relationship questions from our community. We usually have about 3 of them that we answer on every Chase and Mimi show. We call that the entree of the episode. But first, we start with some segments. Sometimes they're about pop culture. Sometimes they're about mindfulness. Maybe they're about health and wellness. Maybe it's just something from our own life. But we call those the appetizers. And we usually do 2 or 3 of those before we wrap this entire show up with a crazy story.
The dessert.
So let's jump in. First segment, shit I've been on lately.
Let's talk about the shit. You want to go first?
Sure. For me, I thought it would be fun to talk about, we're newly to Sedona. We're like 10 days in. And I always find that it's a perfect opportunity when you make a move, come back from vacation, even getting over being sick. It's a great time to set new rhythms and new patterns. And so morning routine is kind of always the top of mind adjustment that I'm looking for in a new environment. And nothing unusual, but I'm getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning and prioritizing putting protein in my body. And usually that includes, maybe Organifi protein powder mixed with MushyLove, and that's my first drink of the day. But really the last few months I've been having a lot more bone broth than I've had in the past. Bone broth used to be something that I would have occasionally. It wasn't all the time. But I have been having bone broth first thing with a scoop of Organifi's collagen. And so...
Which is tasteless and just...
Tasteless.
It just dissolves into nothing.
And there's a few reasons for that. One, there's a lot of evidence out there that if you line your gut with something like bone broth, first thing in the morning, it supports digestion the rest of the day. 2, it's got usually 10 to 15 grams of protein per cup of bone broth. And then it's got a host of minerals, salt and potassium and really calcium, supportive of, what we are always kind of blown away by the power of minerals in the body. And so I've been prioritizing that first thing in the morning. Scoop of collagen, which is another 10 grams of protein. And out of the gate, I'm 20 grams of protein within first 15 minutes of the day. I used to fast all morning. I mean, that was years ago. And I'm at the point where getting 30 to 50 grams of protein in the first couple hours of the day has radically changed my health and vitality. And I'm sure there's a time and place for fasting. I'm sure that if you need to lose some weight, calorie control, portion control through some fasting protocol is excellent. Or if you're a supreme biohacker, I'm sure there's some benefit. But damn it, dude, my life is better when I am getting a load of protein in the morning. And I find myself with more energy throughout the day. I really don't have cravings anymore. And even when I'm hungry, it's not like I'm going to, burn the house down for food. It's really, really consistent and stable. And I chalk a lot of that up to the fact that I'm prioritizing really high quality protein early in the day. And then maybe I'll pass it to you.
No, first talk about your, the kind of bone broth that we've been drinking.
Well, there's Kettle and Fire, and pre-packaged liquid bone broths that you can get at the store, but those are really expensive.
And they're not really
and they don't taste that good. You got to add a lot of things.
You got to add your own spices and salt and stuff.
And so they're if you buy a Kettle and Fire box carton, it's $4 a cup when you do the math, which is kind of a lot.
It's a lot.
And so
if you're having it regularly,
which I was doing that for a while and adding salt and adding garlic powder and some herbs in there to try to make it a little tastier. But we found a brand called Lono Life, and it is grass-fed beef bone broth, and they do have chicken broth, and they have
no, that's just I think it's just chicken and beef. Yeah.
And it's actually it's been dried and it's powdered, so you just add hot water. And I've tried other powdered bone broths before, and I similarly don't like them.
Yeah.
But this one nails it. It really, really tastes like ramen.
Yeah.
You know, like top ramen.
Yeah, it does.
Which is freaking awesome. Thank you, Mike G. That is Mike Gonzalez, former guest of the medicine. He shared a pack of this in San Diego with us a couple months ago, and we were both like, damn, this is like way better than what we're doing.
I was like, oh yeah, I have bone broth all the time. And he's like, no, you got to try this. It's really, really good. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And tried it. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best bone broth I've ever had. And I think it's because it tastes homemade. Because it's when you make homemade bone broth, when I have done it in the past, you use a lot of spices and salt and everything like that. And obviously just getting the bones fresh and doing it yourself is always better. Duh. But the stuff that's sitting on the shelf, I don't know, I've just never been like wowed by any that you can get in liquid form. And I think because this one is like freeze dried or whatever it is, it's like powdered.
Yeah.
They're able to like hold in the flavor a little bit more. You guys, just try it. You'll have to look it up on the website or Amazon.
Lonalife.com. We actually reached out to get like a commission code or an affiliate code because we like it so much. We're going to use it all the time. If we end up getting a code, we'll let you guys know. You guys can try Medicin, MEDICIN, in case we have one by then.
Yeah.
But we're just promoting this brand because they're doing a great job.
I don't even know if they do, discount codes. It's not necessarily why we're doing this, but
50 calories, 10 grams of protein, barely any fat, barely any carbs, 70 milligrams of potassium, 500 milligrams of sodium. Ingredients are beef collagen, chicory root, dried beef, sea salt, yeast extract, black pepper, and some natural flavors. Probably makes it taste better with little natural flavors in there, but
right. I'm not really worried
freaking out
about
that.
No.
So with that, I'll pass it to you because I think you have when we were talking about our shit, we thought it made a lot of sense to talk about the next thing that I have in the morning, the next thing that you have in the morning after our beef broth. Yeah,
our two shits went together this episode.
We merged our shits. Freaky.
Yeah. Very kinky stuff. Yes, so the shit I've been on lately is a brand new type of protein bar from Dr. Peter Attia. He's one of the co-founders of this company. And, we've listened to him on, we read his audiobook together or listened to his audiobook. We have, heard him on different podcasts and things like that. And so like, I really respect his work. He's, one of the leading experts in longevity science and performance optimization. And one of the things that he stresses above all else is that most people are not getting enough protein. And so that is contributing to people being basically under muscled.
Yeah.
And that leads to being overweight or like over fat. So when you have more muscle, your metabolism and things just like go so much smoother. And part of having enough muscle on your body is eating enough protein. So he's a huge proponent of protein. So he basically created a new type of protein bar because he was completely discouraged, and I've been there too.
As are we. Like
with protein bars,
good protein bars.
There's really not. The ones that taste good usually have BS in them. The ones that have a lot of protein usually don't taste good, or they're weird. They're crazy. Very weird types of protein. It's all like soy protein or just very like low quality that is just an immediate farty party. We usually are very hesitant to try any sort of unknown protein bar because we're like, I don't want to fart for 2 days because of this bar.
I usually just go with RX bars, chocolate, because there's like 5 ingredients and there's not even that much protein.
No,
it's like hard to call it even a protein bar.
It's like 10 grams of protein in the whole bar.
When people ask me, we've gotten the question many times over the years of doing, podcasting and health influencing, I guess. I've been like, just don't even waste your time. Go eat a beef stick.
Yeah, right.
Take a bite of chicken.
And there's brands like Paleo Valley, which has a superfood bar that has some protein in it, clean ingredients, but it's also got a shit ton of fat, which is fine. I'm not like afraid of fat, but I get so much fat in other sources. So all that to say, when I found this protein bar and saw the specs, saw the nutrition label, I was like, whoa, if this is good, if this tastes good and, doesn't create a farty party in me, this could be like a game changer.
Yeah.
So the company is called David Protein Bars. Let me get it out. But that's what Chase calls my dad, David, because his name is David and he looks Mexican.
Wow, let's try not to get canceled on that one.
He does. So back to David Protein Bars. It's a play on, like, if you go to their website, you see where they say human beings are not perfect, and there's a statue of David, but this protein bar is. So it's like very
nice.
Yeah, very like clever marketing or whatever. So that's what the David is. And listen to these specs. A whopping 28 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar. They use monk fruit and stevia. And it's very tasty. There's 4 flavors. I like 2 to 3 of them. And great texture. I don't love protein bars that are all the same texture. Like, there's no change up. There's no chunks or chips or crunchies or anything like that. It kind of makes me gag by the end of it. So overall, just really great out of the gate. And then the true test was like, what is this going to do to my gut with the different types of protein? Maybe we should look up what types of protein.
Milk protein isolate, collagen, whey protein concentrate, egg white.
Yeah.
I've never seen a protein bar that has that much quality protein. Because usually you're going to get soy proteins, you're going to get plant-based proteins. At best, you'll get like a pea protein, which if you don't have digestive enzymes to support, like for instance, Organifi's plant-based protein is a pea protein based, which you want to use pea protein if you're getting plant-based proteins because it has more amino acids, which make it more bioavailable, where most plant proteins don't have enough amino acids for it to do a damn thing. And then you want a digestive enzyme to go with it because there are phytochemicals from the plant-based proteins that can be really disruptive to the gut. I'm getting on a rabbit trail now, but you want the digestive enzymes in there to support it, which is why Organifi's plant-based protein is hands down just the best that exists. Otherwise, you want to go to whey protein, milk protein, egg protein, collagen, things of that nature. However, still, there are very quick and dirty ways to extract protein, have it register as protein on the label, but you're missing some of the critical components that will make it bioavailable, that will make it digestible. And so in this case, like really, really quality. Yeah.
I'm very pleased with them. They have 4 flavors. They have like cake batter or birthday cake or something like that, which is pretty good. Chocolate chip cookie, which is one of our favorites. And then there's like chocolate fudge something, which is my favorite. And then there's like a blueberry flavor, which I don't really like fruity types of bars. No. So I don't love that one, but if you like fruity ones, great, try it. But all of them are pretty solid.
And last thing I'll say, from a sweetener perspective, most protein bars, most proteins, you're going to see, names you've never heard of, trying to get this thing artificially sweetened, or sugar alcohols, for instance, that don't show up as sugar, but will absolutely turn your gut into a balloon. Unsweetened chocolate, monk fruit extract, stevia, cacao powder, and some natural flavor. So all of those are things that I consume already in other places. I don't like to have too much natural flavor in my life, but a little bit's not going to kill you. And there are some binders, but they're pretty standard binders: tapioca starch, allulose, glycerin. Yeah,
I think someone asked me the other day, like a DM, like, how do you feel when I shared the bone broth on my Instagram story? She was like, how do you feel about the natural flavors? I was like, well, it's really far down on the list, and I eat mostly whole foods everywhere else in my life. So I think the pros outweigh the cons in these 2 cases where we're getting a shit ton of protein. It's not upsetting our gut. And, so it's like, sometimes the stress that you put on yourself about being absolutely fucking perfect with your health and every single ingredient, that stress is worse for you than the ingredient that you think has the potential to be bad.
I'll always choose something that doesn't have natural flavors versus one that does. But in this case, this is the best bone broth I've ever had.
Yes, bone broth and protein bar. So shout out Peter
protein mornings, y'all.
Yep. All right. You want to move on here?
I will just say one last note. We're also trying to get a discount code because how much is a box of
I don't know.
bars?
It's like $40 for 12. So
Yeah.
it's not cheap, but again, in one bar, they have 28 grams of protein. So a lot of times I will only eat half because that's 14
so like
grams.
A Quest bar, which is probably the most popular mainstream protein bar, is per gram of protein. This is significantly more affordable. It's like 9 cents per, I think I saw on their website, 9 cents where Quest is like 13 or 14. So we're going to try to get a discount code because it is, $40.
We did sign up to be affiliates, but we just haven't
Try
heard
the
back.
code MEDICIN, MEDICIN.
All caps.
By the time this episode is out, God willing, Lord willing, if he just steps in and blesses blesses us with the protein gifts, you'll have a discount code. So,
yes.
And you can call it a God thing. All right. Next segment, next appetizer. We call this one Clip of the Week, where we take a bite out of the content made by some of our favorite teachers, creators, friends, or complete strangers.
In this case, it is complete strangers, but strangers that I started following after I saw this video that was actually sent by our friend Leanna, the Gem Goddess. She and I exchange videos and DMs basically every day, like talking about family planning and family thinking, and she's pregnant right now, and so it's like just back and forth kid stuff like literally all day every day. So this is the Instagram handle at Dinner Table Family. So let me click on this here.
I'd rather pay my kids to read a book than take out the trash. My daughter read about 50 books this summer on her own. We didn't tell her to do anything because we set up a system for her to fall in love with it. So here's what we did. She basically got a reward for every single book she read so that she could buy the next book. And all she had to do was tell us something she learned from it and something she's going to apply to her life. And she got through 50 books. She was reading like a book a day, chapter books. And she's going into 3rd grade. We got her all the Tuttle Twin books about freedom and entrepreneurship and liberty and personal responsibility. She was reading a book a day and like telling me everything she learned from him and what she's going to do differently. Then she got her $5 pay for the next book. And so after the 13 books, she had $65 and she went and grabbed another 10 books. And it was super fun for her to see how far she could get. And we told her that if she hit the 50 number, that we were going to have a special fun reward at the end of the summer. Legoland. She hit it halfway through the summer. They crushed it with their gigs. The point is, you shouldn't just make your kids do chores. They don't learn much from that. If you can give them brain gigs, we call them, and have them use their brain to create value, then they find what they love to do, what good at, they learn capabilities, they start using their mind to create value everywhere they go, and the more we can incentivize that as parents, the better for our kids.
I love this so much. I saw this and I was like, why don't more parents do this? Because we're really used to, having chores as kids, and maybe you get an allowance, or maybe you don't and you just have to do chores or whatever, and that's fine, like contributing to the family. But like, I love that this guy and his wife are thinking of interactive, fun ways that they can inspire their daughter to do something productive. In this case, reading a book, and paying her $5 and requesting a little like book report when she's done. And I just love that idea so much. Like, why not like incentivize your kid to go learn something? Or this could apply with something else. Maybe it's not reading books, but maybe it's doing something more active or whatever. But I love this concept so much, and I definitely want to apply it to our life, when we're parents.
Yeah, I like it. I do. I'm going to just throw a few, I'm wondering if this would potentially lead to a weird, compulsive habit type comments. So, ideally, you pull the reward away and they continue the practice. So, but if you pull the reward away and they just stop completely, what have you actually taught the child? To do something for a reward, or to learn the practice of reading and accumulating wisdom and knowledge and going through an experience of like a fantasy novel like Harry Potter or something that brings you happiness and joy and escapism? Or are you, I got to crush this book so that I get my dad's approval and get the reward at the end of it? Also, do you want to read all day long, or do you want to have a diverse life of like doing other things that's active and, do art and sports and hang out with your friends? And so that would be I'm not trying to shit on this creator at all. I think it's a really great idea. I think we should do this in moderation. I definitely don't want to like overly incentivize really one particular practice at all. Rather, I'm more interested in like maybe nudges of support. And so I think it's a cool idea. I definitely think that there can be like challenges, and one of them can incorporate reading, or there can be a host of different healthy activities that can get to some sort of like, family reward type of mechanism. Because I do think that incentives that's what life's about. We do everything. We do a lot of things for incentives, but some of the most rewarding things that we do in life, and it's really challenging for me, even as an adult, to participate in these types of activities because there's no incentive, materialistic incentive, is to just do it for the sake of the joy of doing it. And that there is nothing on the other side in the form of reward or outcome per se.
Sure, that'd be great. And maybe some kids are like that, where they're self-starters and they're going to go out and do it no matter what. Probably depends on the kid, but it doesn't have to be necessarily reading a book. It could be something active.
Totally.
Which that's the first thing I thought of when he was like, oh, she was reading a book a day. That means she's sitting in one, I would assume, sitting in one place for hours at a time. And I wouldn't necessarily encourage my kid to just sit all day. I would want to put some parameters, in place. But the thing behind the thing for me is not just paying your kids to contribute to the household. That should be the thing that is like a given, where it's like, we all contribute to the house because we all use the house. So like, I'm not going to pay you for vacuuming when, we're all contributing in the same way, but I will pay you for doing something that's teaching you something. And hopefully, let's talk about like, hey, someday, we're not going to be paying you to do things. You have to learn how to, do this on your own, and why it's important and all of that. But the thing behind the thing for me is like figuring out a fun way to incentivize your kids that's not just centered around like chores.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like let's teach them something.
For sure.
Like come up with a business plan. I'll pay you $5 for a good business plan, something like that. But I think you can get creative with this, just using it as a template of like, hey, let's try this, and we'll give you $2 or $5 every time you complete blank. And if you get to this goal I think having like something to work towards as a kid is really important too. Like having a goal,
Totally.
How much that adds to your life.
Some level of autonomy. You feel like you have control over your life to a certain degree. And, those rewards are little tokens of freedom when you're a kid, especially whether that's money or whether that's something else that's interesting, like an experience or going to a theme park or whatever. No, I'm not trying to totally take a dump on it.
No, I think your points are valid.
Yeah.
I think it's totally valid. It's just something to think about, and then figure out what's right for your family.
Keep a thermometer of fun around, and if the fun gauge is currently not high enough, or the learning gauge or whatever, and it's starting to trickle into compulsive behavior or obligatory behavior or something like that. You back off. Maybe
it's not reading. Maybe it's something related to sports if they're into sports or whatever. I just thought of a good one too. Like maybe your kid likes gardening and you say like, hey, I'll pay you for the produce that I would have to go to the store and pick these or, buy these carrots anyway. So, work in your garden and I'll pay you for whatever produce that you like. That would be cool. Totally. You can play with it a little bit.
We'll play.
All right, next segment, you guys. Last appetizer before they bring that sizzling steak entree out.
Wow, all right. This one is called The Times Are Tough, but the Memes Are Easy.
All right.
This is my favorite segment.
Yeah. All right, you want to start?
Sure. Remembering the first time I got pulled over, the officer asked for my registration, and I just handed him all the papers in my glove box and told him to pick because I don't know what it looked like. Which I'm pretty sure I did the first time. I was like, what do you need? What is a registration?
Right. It's so true because like whenever you get new registration, it's very rare that you like take out the old one. Yeah. You're like, well, I might need this at some point. It's expired.
I've got like the first car I ever had in
You're just like,
life.
shove it in there. Yeah. All right. I don't know how to explain this, but Thursday, October, and 8 p.m. are all the same.
There's a general grayness to them.
It's just kind of like towards the end, but not the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Babe, is everything okay? You've hardly done anything at all in your entire life. I fucking love that one.
I hope you're not actually saying that to me.
Not to you, but I have that thought about people in my life.
You call them babe?
Often. Well, remove the babe.
Babe.
And sometimes in my head, that's exact words that I'm saying. It's like, are you okay? You've actually never done anything in your entire life.
Oh, man. So good. What if the whole Santa coming down the chimney thing is just a Muggle conspiracy to cover up the fact that Santa is a wizard traveling by flu powder?
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really creative.
I like that. And I think it could be true.
You can't hurt me. I grew up with rapture anxiety.
Rapture?
Yeah.
Rapture? Oh, rapture?
Rapture. We grew up as
rapture.
Christians. Yeah. So the rapture, for anybody who didn't grow up
as raptor, like
rapture,
velociraptor.
No, I pronounced rapture.
It's so true.
There's in Christianity, and if you grew up in evangelical Christianity, there were these books called the Left Behind series.
And then it was a movie.
And the movies. They were massive in the Christian community where Jesus comes back and takes all the Christians to heaven and everybody else is left on just this hellish plane that is earth. And it's not even in the Bible. This is not a biblical part of Christianity. It's something that was constructed and made up to scare the shit out of people. But it's basically like
the ultimate fear-based.
The rapture belief is that Jesus takes all the Christians back and those who remain have like 7 years to figure their shit out and ask Jesus into their hearts. Otherwise, they're going to burn in hell for eternity.
And like the Antichrist is on earth and stuff. And so like that.
We read these books in churches and schools and stuff like that. And it was like,
I read all of them.
Yeah. And
What was the guy? Kirk Cameron?
Super
Chris guy.
Yes. He was in those movies. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, I have, 2 thoughts from an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. And this is basically kids imagining what life would be like at 40. Rita, 9 years old, says, I am 40. I have wrinkles and gray hair, and I would have a walking stick to help me walk. This is Jennifer, age 8. I am 40. I am turning old. I just left work because I cannot manage going up and down hills. I know I will soon die. At 40. Oh
I know
my God,
I will soon die.
That's like
Jesus,
5 years for me.
5 years away. My turn?
Yep.
I didn't know if there were more. Bro, check out that dilp. Where? Wait, what's a dilp? Dog I'd like to pet.
Mine would be a kilp.
Yeah, it's true.
A kitty. Or a pilp. A pussy I'd like to pet.
Jesus. Wow.
Oh, man. I'm no marriage counselor, but have you tried building her something while wearing your hat backwards?
That's nice. I know.
You know, when Chase turns his hat backwards, I'm like, okay.
How the fuck a computer gonna ask me if I'm a robot? Motherfucker, you are the robot.
It's so true. Oh, man, this one hits home. If one more teenager calls me ma'am, I'm gonna probably let them carry my groceries because I'm old and life's hard.
One of my biggest faults is that when I ask someone their name, I forget to listen to what their name is. This one is my spoken soul.
That is so true for you. Oh my God. You have to say it out loud again.
No, I do it. Doesn't work still. Go ahead. Next one.
Okay. This is my last one. I don't think we take enough time to appreciate the periods in our life when our noses aren't runny or stuffed. Is your nose runny or stuffed right now? No. Think about that. Honestly reflect on it. Enjoy this era of peace. There are dark times on the horizon.
I had a stuffy nose like chronically as a kid. And so I when I used to get little like air passages of real breathing, I'd be like...
Yeah, just to
get as many breaths in as I possibly could through the nostrils.
When one is plugged,
yeah,
and you're laying on that side, and then you switch to the other side when you're sleeping,
you
and
get
then
this
there's
like 13-second window of bliss.
Switching,
but it's kind of cold. It kind of burns somehow. I'm very laid back. I only care really about 2 things: every person on earth and their opinion of me, and the crushing psychological weight of being alive.
Just those 2 things.
I like eating nerds because I'm secretly hungry for aquarium gravel, and this takes the edge off.
Oh my gosh.
I just love this so much.
Oh, you're not done?
No. Okay. I just found out that cauliflower waffles are a thing now. And I just want to say that if anyone ever serves me a cauliflower waffle, I will immediately call the police. Oh, let's see. This one's, too close to home. Slept very poorly last night. And to make matters worse, as a weird coincidence, everyone was being annoying today.
Oh, man.
All right.
Those memes are so easy.
Moving into our entree, 3 relationship questions.
Yes. There's some doozies today.
Some doozies.
Doozies. Okay, so this first one was actually, all of these questions are directly from our listeners. If you would like to send us a relationship question for us to address on the podcast, you can email us at themedicinepodcast@gmail.com. And she says, this question is for Chase, so listen up. She didn't say that, I did. As a man, what was it like evolving from a Christian perspective to an atheist perspective to a spiritual one? Do you believe you have a soul? And how do you know? My boyfriend, after having a near-death experience, is now saying he doesn't know if he has a soul and doesn't know if any kind of, quote, God exists. Before the near-death experience, we were on the same page as we believed in having a soul and that there was something more to existence than what we can see. If he can't recognize his soul, how can he recognize mine?
Wow, very deep question.
It is. We need Paul Check for this one, I think.
Are you sure I'm the guy to answer this question? I'm happy to jump in here and so my path from the Christian perspective to atheist, scientific materialist, and then just kind of where I reside now. Grew up Christian. If you've listened to the show at all, you know that. I kind of just went with the flow of Christianity because it worked.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing else.
Life was comfortable.
Until I was in college. And I actually went to a Christian college where the curriculum for the school required history of religion, of Christianity, history of the 4 or 5 major religions of the world, and then psychology, sociology, and then a kind of senior project of developing your worldview. And it's funny, and I don't know if this was their intention or not, but when I started to pop the hood on Christianity and other world religions, I was just like, oh, wow, nobody knows. Nobody has any clue.
Yeah.
And to me, there's nothing except a pretty intense leap everywhere you look in order to get as articulate about a particular, God definition or where we come from, what's our purpose definition as that of mainstream religions. And so I left Christianity in college. I was kind of like in the closet for a while, but came out, probably 1 or 2 years after college very firmly. And I actually thought it was all bullshit, not just Christianity, but all religion and spirituality at large. And so I went into what I would probably call atheist just because I was listening to a lot of like Sam Harris and
do you think it was
Richard
more
Dawkins
like,
and
you wouldn't describe it as like agnostic?
Probably agnostic, most likely agnostic, which a lot of those guys say they're agnostic, but their label is atheist. So like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins are famous atheists, but I've heard them both say, well, I'm agnostic,
It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to put all my, what is the saying?
Eggs in one basket.
All my eggs in one basket because I don't know. That's kind of where you were at, I think.
Yeah. And I'm still there. I'm in a sacred I don't know. That being said, I experience a metaphysical component to this reality through a diverse and ever-growing array of practices, which started with, most notably, a pretty intense psychedelic journey when I was 27, and has also, over the last 7 or 8 years, included time in nature. It's included sex, prayer and meditation, breath work, the death of a loved one, the birth of my siblings' children, and just seeing the vibrancy of a child, our reconciliation, and some moments in that. And for me, I don't think about God as this like character, this person. I don't personify God necessarily. I just kind of categorize the beautiful unknown and the mystery as God. And I tend to, my greatest teacher in this experience has been Paul Chek, and he has a beautiful system for articulating spirit, articulating the soul, and God. And I tend to put most of my eggs in that basket if I was to be forced to put my eggs in a basket. I've been on some really incredible experiences with Paul, and through his guidance, have really been unable to poke holes in his architecture of this experience much. And so I don't personally get hung up on the names at this point.
Yeah.
What is a soul? Paul's got a definition for it. That sounds good to me. But is a soul this very specific, definite, tangible component to each one of us? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Does it matter? Does it matter if you believe there's a soul and I don't, but the fruits of my life suggest that I love others. I have love for myself. I take responsibility for my actions. I hold myself accountable to the best version of myself. I'm not just a net positive, but I'm actually thirsty for growth. And so I have an ability to observe my behavior and my emotions and make decisions on how I behave based on what I believe to be, the best version of myself. And so it's just not an easy thing to answer. And frankly, I don't really care that much about, do you believe in God? Do you believe in a soul? I do think there's something, and it's so mysterious. I have been God given a really dense nervous system. I wish I had like visions and shit. I don't. I'm like really pragmatic and rational, and it takes music and breath work and psychedelics and being around people like Paul to crack that open for me and experience the more mystical things behind this materialistic universe. And I think that I've had enough of them to really know that there's something. But I will be the last one to try to claim that I have any sort of deep understanding or deep ability to be able to articulate exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. So I do believe there's a soul. I do believe there's a God. I believe God is so vast, we'll never get to a fraction of understanding. But yeah, to answer the question, I'm totally on board with the idea. I think there was one question I want to make sure. If he can't recognize his soul, how can he recognize mine?
I know what she's, like struggling with here. It seems like, he had this near-death experience, which is crazy in and of itself. And if you go online and read near-death experiences, it usually changes people in some way, shape, or form, like for life, or at least for a time until things start to like make sense a little bit more or whatever. And so having a near-death experience, I've never had one, but have talked to people who have, and I would recommend that this girl who asked the question just like continue to have empathy and patience, because that is something that is, I guess you could say like a really deep psychedelic journey is probably similar to a near-death experience. Obviously, there's no real physical danger, usually, but there is something that can die within you and be sort of like reborn. And so this is a tough situation, but I think continue to talk about it with him if he's open, hearing about his experience and why. I would continue to ask questions from a loving place, like just wanting to understand like what his experience was like, and have patience and empathy.
Yeah, it's like the God question for me is like, there's nobody out there that can explain where we come from. So at the minimum, source, I identify as God. Nobody knows where we come from. Let's call it God. Deal. Sounds good to me. What illuminates my being, my meat suit, my vessel? Mm-hmm. Is it it's a combination of chemicals and that are running through my veins, and experiences that are going on in my brain that are giving me a perception of this reality and a perception of myself. Great. There's still an initiation point from that. And there's something between the initiation point and the way that I'm acting now. And that seems to be soul. That seems to be this
animating intelligence.
Yeah.
There's a creative animating intelligence that exists in all of us, in every piece of nature. There's an organizing intelligence. Just look at the Fibonacci sequence. Look at patterns in nature, patterns that also like match the human body. There is something that is unexplainable by just regular science. So many questions that are like, yeah, scientists don't know. We don't know, and we probably never will. But the last thing I'll say is, even if you have different spiritual beliefs, I personally think that that's okay. If you still have, if you still have aligned core values as partners, where, like honesty and work ethic and, these things that are, you would consider core values to your life, if those are still similar and you're still like enjoying life together, I personally don't think it really matters that much if you don't believe the exact same thing when it comes to your spiritual life.
Yeah, I think the part that for me that would lead to problems would be if you go down the rabbit trail of, okay, there's no God, there's no meaning, there's no purpose, then you're in nihilism.
Yeah.
And then you get in kind of a depressive, dark state.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard that from a lot of scientific materialists and atheists who've kind of come back around to this idea of, at the minimum, there's a metaphysical purpose for me. It could look different for everybody, but it is somewhat unique to me. A book recommendation, The 7 Hermetic Principles. It's an old book called The Kybalion, a study of the Hermetic philosophy. This pulls really, really ancient philosophies from Greece and Egypt that I found during my scientific materialistic era to be a nice bridge into opening my mind to more metaphysical concepts, because it's like really, really based in like science, like rationalism. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, good question. Holy
Great
shit.
question.
Go listen to the Paul Chek's podcast, the Spirit Gym podcast.
Also great.
I'll read the next one. I have a boyfriend who is everything I want and need in a man, but I don't feel in love with him. I know in my head I love him, but I don't feel it. I've had bad relationships before, and this is the first real healthy one. It's only been 6 weeks, but I feel like something's missing. Do I need to feel in love with him to stay with him? Why would I give up on a man who's everything I need and want just because I'm, quote, not feeling it, end quote? Isn't that just so stupid?
Yeah, I have many thoughts. One, no, it's not stupid. I personally don't think it's stupid. There is something that is intangible with certain people, certain relationships that you can't always see on paper. So if you had 2 guys, or 2 women for that matter, but anyway, two guys, in this case, she's talking about a man, who have on paper the exact same sort of like dating resume. They have a house, they're responsible, they, they're kind, compassionate, everything that you could like put on a list, they have that. But one over the other might have this like spark that you feel, this chemistry that you feel that is not explainable on paper. I don't know what that is called, the spark, chemistry, pheromones, whatever, but it exists. And so I don't think it's stupid. However, she says it's only been 6 weeks. I think back on, when we were separated and we were dating different, people, we were divorced, and 6 weeks is really not that long. if you're monogamous and, or in a, committed relationship, 6 weeks is like, you're a baby in that relationship. If you're like completely like physically unattracted to this person, but they have a good job, they treat you well, they're responsible, they're honest, all of these things, but you're like 0% attracted to them, physically, sexually, whatever, I think that's a recipe for disaster. But 6 weeks is like not that long to know if you really love someone or not. I think you and I were together for like 4 months or something before we said, I love you.
When we were 16.
But I knew. Yeah. When you said it to me, I felt it. I knew it. There was no question. But that was 4 months in. Sometimes it takes people longer. I would just say, like, if this was my girlfriend, I would be like, you know what? Be patient. Something might click where you see this side of him, where he opens up to you in a different way, where you have this connection about something that you just haven't had yet. So I would say, if you really like this person, but you don't feel in love, I think that's okay because you're only 6 weeks in. If this person was 2 years in, it would be a different conversation. So that's kind of my quick and dirty, is like, give it a little time. But if you're 0% physically attracted to this person, I think you're asking for trouble.
I think physically, if you're not physically attracted, if there is a clear miss on core values or like first principles, first values, if there's behavioral patterns where they're lying and you're like, oh, that's weird, they're lying already, and comfortable with it.
Sounds like he's great. She says multiple times, he's everything I want and need.
Which to me, if this person has had a history of bad relationships, they may just have a shell, a protective layer, which is totally normal, that is keeping them from feeling to prevent them from getting hurt. Mm-hmm. So give it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think, if you've had multiple hard, dysfunctional relationship, and you've dated only men who have treated you poorly or cheated on you or whatever, and you finally find a guy that's like treats you really well, then I can see how that would be like, whoa, this is everything I need and want, because it's the first person that has treated me actually very well. But I personally believe that spark, that chemistry, if you want to have a long, happy life with this person, and enjoy your time as friends for life, I think that spark does need to be there, but 6 weeks is a little early.
Yeah.
So
very good.
I hope that helps.
Good question.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Great question. Yes. I'm pulling for you.
I'm pulling for him.
All right.
Do you believe in twin flames? Would you consider your relationship to be such a special connection? Yeah,
I think she's asking, like, do you consider your relationship to be a twin flame relationship?
Can you define twin flames for me?
Yes. So this is, not like some medical term.
Really?
No, it's not. Huh. I actually went to ChatGPT because I wanted, there's a lot of people that have different definitions and takes on twin flames. Chat says twin flames are a concept in spirituality and metaphysics, often described as two souls that are deeply connected on a spiritual level, believed to be two halves of one soul that were split and then incarnated into two separate bodies. The idea is that twin flames have an intense bond that transcends physical, emotional, and mental connections. This bond is said to lead to both challenges and personal growth, often associated with a spiritual awakening. And I'll go on to read what else it gave me. But just from that, it's one of those things where, do I believe in it? Like, would I put a stake in the ground and say, I believe in this? No. Do I think it's possible? Totally. If we're talking about, 2 questions ago, we're talking about the soul, and is there this possibility for a soul, whatever that is, this energetic being, to split into two and to have two different, incarnations in 2 different bodies? Yeah, totally possible, and I would have no idea. And I realize that's such a gray answer, but I would say I'm not going to like bet money on it, but I think it's totally plausible. And would we consider our relationship to be like that kind of connection? Well, Christina Rice told us that we were twin flames, but again, it's like, who knows? The thing that caught my eye was when ChatGPT gave like key characteristics of twin flames. And this is just obviously pulling from the existence of the internet, right? From all over. So it talks about deep connection. Twin flames are said to feel almost an immediate sense of recognition when they meet. We met at 15 and we're basically together like shortly thereafter and just recognized each other as like, there's something in you that I love. Mm-hmm. This connection is often described as magnetic and life-changing. They're complementary energies, so twin flames are often thought to mirror each other, possessing opposite traits that complement one another. I do tend to think that we complement each other nicely. Spiritual growth. Twin flames are believed to challenge one another to heal and grow spiritually. That we have definitely done. This process may involve difficult lessons, but ultimately leads to a deeper sense of self-awareness. This one was the one that really caught my eye regarding twin flames. Union and separation. It's commonly said that twin flames go through periods of separation and reunion where their personal growth takes place during the separation and they come back together when ready for a deeper connection.
Yeah, that nails it.
So that's, basically our love story. So based on the key characteristics that ChatGPT gave me, it's like, yeah, we might be twin flames. That sounds kind of cool. But, when I just think about my own experience of my time with you, if we're one soul split into two bodies, I can say that the time when I was at my lowest and sickest, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, was when we were not together. Partially when we were still married, and then through our divorce, and then, getting healthy on my own, figuring out how to get healthy on my own as we were, coming back together, and we were two different people. Mm-hmm. And I can say that there were some synchronicities when we were apart, that ultimately like led us back together, that were like, when we, reconnected, ultimately it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like we stopped drinking at exactly the same point in time.
We navigated to the same fields of profession and interests.
We went through the exact same hormonal challenges, and body challenges, just in masculine and feminine, but they were the exact same. And, decided to like get ourselves well at basically the same time. So there were some like weird timing things that was like, whoa, what are the chances? And then, yeah, just like when I was apart from you, it was the worst. It was the sickest, but I had to learn how to like get myself well so that I could be with you again. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea if we're twin flames, but based on these characteristics and definition,
I believe we meet the definition of twin flames.
Sure.
I have no reason to believe that twin flames is the thing. But it's cool. It's great. And there are some wild things about our relationship that have been, otherworldly. They've been completely psychedelic. Mm-hmm. We promised to be together forever when we were 16 years old, staring up at the night sky, and we saw like 13 shooting stars immediately. Like, whoa, crazy shit.
Yeah.
Our whole reconciliation is like better than any, corny romance movie or novel. Yeah. We've had psychedelic journeys where I've seen you in your body's changed shape to being an old woman, to being a Native American woman, to like multiple different iterations of you. And I recognized you in all of them and loved you in all of them. I've seen you through your eyes, but I've also not seen you through your eyes. I've stared at you and thought you were completely lost and the person that I loved and knew was gone forever. And then 3 years later, I saw you again through your eyes, and it was you looked the same in the eyeballs. Your eyes were the same, but there was something there that was like so beyond the three-dimensional world. I mean, there's countless examples, like you've spoken my thoughts, both in times of like meditation or ceremony, but also like fucking around in the kitchen. You know, it's just so insane sometimes.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I always tell you when I'm like, you just read my thoughts.
Yeah.
You just stole my thoughts.
Yeah. And you have a way of knowing exactly what is best for me, even if I have no clue. Like, even if I'm just so stubbornly opposed to it in that moment, I always look back and go, God damn it. She totally was right. Emotionally, you're always emotionally like exactly what I need, you know? So yeah, it's like whatever twin flames is, just like the kind of the first question where it's like, fucking, I don't know. But, there is something really, really metaphysical about our dynamic, our relationship that I think is possible in many, many relationships to experience. And so fuck it. Let's call it twin flames.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Cool.
Oh, great questions.
All right. As we always do, we will wrap this thing up with a crazy story.
I can't wait. I have not heard this story.
This one is called Wedding Sabotage by the Mother-in-Law. So sometimes these crazy stories are just crazy stories. Other times they're relationship oriented. All right. This story is about my friend's mother-in-law and her wedding. Strap in, guys. This is a wild ride in which I did the thing that got me banned from any of her family's functions forever. A good friend of mine from university was getting married. She must be from Britain because
European in some way. Yeah.
They'd been a couple since junior year of college. Well, now she's in college. Through her 2 years in the Peace Corps and currently on a return trip to this continent. 6 years in total they've been together. She'd been to all manner of family functions and always came back with a strange story about how she thinks her mother-in-law secretly hates her. But she, being a very quiet and sweet person, pushed those thoughts aside. Point 1. She's a vegetarian and she's Jewish. Husband is not. She was invited and went to Christmas dinner and figured she would just eat sides, as well as she brought a vegetarian casserole for herself. The mother-in-law, knowing her for 3 years and being told by the husband many times before not to forget about my friend and that she doesn't eat meat, she proceeded to make and put meat in every dish. The friend drank water and just ate her casserole all night long, while the mother-in-law cried out loud to everyone that my friend was so rude for not eating all of the cooking that she'd made. Anyway, back to the story. A few friends and I were asked to be in the wedding. My friend was a huge family, and so this was not going to be a small affair. Neither of them are particularly religious, but my friend said it would be nice to be married under a huppah. Think an arbor, but 4 poles and covered with a white cloth and lots of flowers. Husband said he could care less and told her to go and rent one for the wedding. I was at the bridal shower when the mother-in-law found out that it was a pretty canopy, was actually a huppah, and she almost lost her shit in front of a bunch of people. She managed to compose herself and laugh angrily that if the Jews were being represented, so could the Catholics. But secret, guys, nobody there was Catholic. So after much fighting, a lot of screaming, crying, threatening to pull money, which is funny because she absolutely contributed nothing, the mother-in-law lost and the boot was firmly placed. Nothing was moving it. Huppah, yes. Catholics, no. So I'm assuming huppah is some sort of Jewish, wedding or garb or something.
Yeah.
Things got really quiet for the coming days. My friend was texting me the night before the wedding that she was getting a really bad feeling. I tell her it's probably just nerves. She is getting married, and this is not a big deal. But I was wrong. We all show up, get our hair and makeup done, slip into the bridesmaid dresses, and hang out waiting for the bride to finish her hair. She makes a comment saying she hadn't seen the mother-in-law all day and that she skipped her hair and makeup appointment. We all sighed at each other, took a few sips of wine, and hoped the feeling would go away. 30 minutes later, as we were helping the bride get into her dress, guess who shows up? You guessed it, the mother-in-law, flushed from coming up the stairs. She is not a light woman. In full hair and makeup and a white dress. Not ivory, not cream. Full snow fucking white. I love this stuff. Girls are just so crazy sometimes. The dress was clearly a wedding dress. It was even from David's bridal. Floor-length satin with a sweetheart beaded top, a bit of a train, and off-white lace on the bottom. The dress was even tailored to her. This has been a long con she has been orchestrating.
Oh my God.
The bride burst into tears, and aunts and friends ushered the mother-in-law out. We did our best to console the bride, touched up her makeup, and I made her a promise that the dress would never be seen in a photo. She looked me dead in the eye and nodded. The game was on. The venue only supplied white wine and champagne for the wedding party, but I grabbed my purse and ran down to the reception area and managed to flag an attendant by the bar and bribe him with a cool 20 to give me a bottle of red early. I cracked the baby open, filled a solo cup to the brim with it, and stalked outside. After a few swigs from the bottle for courage, I went over to where everyone was getting ready to take photos. With one last hard stare at my friend, I got her nod of approval. I pulled out my phone, held it in front of my face like I was reading a text, and walked straight into the mother-in-law. I poured the entire cup of red wine down the front of her dress, jumped back, and gasped. The look on her face was murderous. She screamed, yelled, threatened, and promised she would sue me. People had to hold her back because she wanted to fight me. Eventually,
this is true friendship right here.
Amazing. Eventually, she switched from screaming to sobbing and sank to the ground and threw a tantrum on the floor. Everyone moved back and just let her go at it, and walked away to take photos. It was surreal, as if everyone just hit their limit and noped out from all around her. The 12-year-old flower girl whipped out her phone and snapped a few photos for our amusement. This is already super long, but I will say that my mother-in-law went home and changed, only 20 minutes from the venue, into a nice dark green, too small and too low-cut dress. Because of this, she missed all of the photos. The wedding was beautiful. I got death glares from everyone she told that I attacked her with wine. No fucks were given as I drank and danced with friends. The bride thanked me in secret and 3 months later took me to the spa for a day of pampering. I am officially that ISIS cunt to the mother-in-law, and I'll take it with pride.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing. Oh my God.
Moral of the story for me, not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, sometimes they wear bridesmaid dresses. Moral of the story is that's all of it is horrible and crazy and hilarious, but this woman is going to be in this girl's life forever. That sucks.
Yeah.
It's not a moral, it's just an observation.
Yeah.
Whew, man, there are some doozy mother-in-laws out there. Holy shit.
Much love from my mother-in-law.
Oh man, I'm so glad I have a good one. Great story. Great find.
Great find.
Wow. I am just so, I wish I could whoever wrote this friend.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just
friend.
deep bow to you. Like that is some balls to pour wine down the mother-in-law. So good. Thanks guys for hanging out with us. We hope you had fun. We hope we made you laugh. We hope you got some good tips for protein.
If you love the episode, we would love it if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you left us a comment, what do you think about the show? What do you want to hear more of? And submit a question.
Yeah. And if you ever have thoughts on the answers that we give for the relationship questions, maybe we missed something. Maybe you have a completely different opinion. Maybe you agree with us. We love seeing comments on YouTube and are totally open to hearing other people's opinions on these questions that we answer. So appreciate you. Love you. We will talk to you next time. Go spread some light. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.